now turn to the third part of my outline, evaluating the message of Catholic social teaching regarding globalization. And my summary is very simple. The Catholic social teaching recognizes most of the right things, says most of the right things, but may not have analyzed globalization thoroughly enough quite yet. Some of you mentioned on the way into the lecture hall that you're familiar with at least one of my books, Living Justice, seems to be very popular. People asked me to sign their copy, so I can mention that one. You'll know, if you know anything about my career or any of my Jesuit colleagues who work on Catholic social teaching issues, on social justice issues, that we're very sympathetic to Catholic social teaching. In fact, if it wasn't for Catholic social teaching, I'd be looking for a job right now. It's pretty much how I make my money. Catholic social teaching has so many good features, I could spend all day commending its good features. So let me just talk about 4 ways in which Catholic social teaching has contributed so far to our understanding and our ethical grasp of globalization. The first angle, and this is a matter of opinion, but it's my opinion, that Catholic social teaching has tread a very careful balance between the idealistic and the realistic, between the values level and the kind of practicalities level of globalization. Here's what I mean. Catholic social teaching recognizes that there are humanistic values that must be protected. There's a moral sensitivity, an insistence on certain ethical demands that go along with the economy. Calling globalization to be as humane as it possibly can, not to hurt people, not to roll over people like that juggernaut, that irresistible force. But on the other hand, at the same time, Catholic social teaching shies away from a complete, utter critique of global capitalism because there are principles of economics that remind us that the global economy is a good thing, that it can be a force for efficiency, could be a force for equity, for producing more, and for making profit and efficiency that can go to help a number of people around the world. If the gains are distributed well, globalization is a force for good. Catholic social teaching so far, and hopefully in the future, keeps its eye on the winners, but also the losers in global competition, and hopefully can contribute to a dialogue about how we will treat those whose forces are, whose outcomes are mostly negative in global competition. And by the way, there are over 60 countries who in the last decade have experienced not an increase in income, but a decrease in the gross national product. They're almost all in Latin America, and especially 2/3 of those 60 are in Africa, sub-Saharan Africa. The global economy is not working well for everybody, and especially for the poorest paid workers in those economies, and also in our first world economy as well. So there are serious issues at stake. A second fine feature, good feature of Catholic social teaching is that it has acknowledged our ability to shape globalization. The opposite of this would be fatalism, giving up hope, saying that the market forces are so inexorable, it's such a juggernaut, that we can't stand in the way. Globalization, the Pope has reminded us on many occasions, including the 2 quotes that I just read, globalization is something that we can shape. Globalization is something that's a matter of human decisions. They can be altered. They can even be reversed. The global economy is not what economists sometimes call an exogenous factor, something we have no ability to change. Rather, it's a matter of vision, it's a matter of values, and it's a matter of relationships. Getting the relationships right is a major part of humanizing globalization. We have discretionary power. We can create a better system. Some people quote Adam Smith, the famous political economist back in the 1700s, who postulated an invisible hand that makes all things and matters economic work out just well. And they cite him, especially libertarians do, to say that if you start tinkering with the economy, you start regulating things, worse outcomes are going to come. You're going to, in a great saying, kill the goose that laid the golden egg, as if the economy is always producing positive things. Catholic social teaching is one of the voices that gives us the courage to say, on occasion, no, the way things are going is not okay. We do need to more than tinker with the system. We need to adjust it. We need to fine-tune it. We need to make it work for people. And we should be bold enough to say that we can change things, that we're not caught in the way things are. To say that we can't change things is to be guilty of what philosophers call the naturalistic fallacy. It confuses what is, the status quo, with what ought to be. And it says that there's no difference between the is and the ought. Today, I think we know better. I think we know that there are facts and there are values, and that sometimes we need to exert our values and to make them, to give us the impetus to make some change. Otherwise, we've lost all our moral traction. We've lost our ability to shape our world, and we're relegated, really straitjacketing ourselves out of active engagement with the world. The theological point here is very simple. Globalization reflects all of the good and all of the evil that is in the human heart. Our hearts are good, they're compassionate, hopefully, most of the time, but they're also sinful. As St. Augustine said many years ago, and Alexander Solzhenitsyn famously stole this line from him, the line between good and evil runs right through each human heart. Each one of us can make good decisions and bad decisions, and each one of us can hopefully be motivated to make some social changes. A third item about Catholic social teaching, this is something that I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of it for being balanced. I've already mentioned one balance. The balance between here is between being pro-globalization and anti-globalization. Let me read you a few sentences that I wrote in that article I mentioned earlier. You can look this up online if you use that URL in the middle of your outline. Here's some sentences where I praise Catholic social teaching for this balance. If some manner of taming is indeed the central task when confronted with a globalization that threatens proper human development, how then is this reflected in official Catholic social teaching? Most of what has been written on globalization in the name of the Church demonstrates a healthy aversion to either extreme pro-globalization or anti-globalization perspectives, neither baptizing the dominant narrative offered by the enthusiasts, nor uncritically adopting whole cloth the counter-narrative of globalization protesters and naysayers who demonize the growth of world markets. Rather than supporting knee-jerk reactions to the complex issues involved in evaluating this juggernaut, official Catholic voices have adopted a measured embrace of what is good in globalization and a heartfelt, if not consistently boldly prophetic, appeal to curb practices that are destructive and exploitative. And I go on to say that that Pope John Paul II has called us, as the quotes I've already used attest, to try to search for a way to make globalization mutually beneficial. My fourth item, this is the last of the positive features of Catholic social teaching when it addresses globalization, is that ideally and hopefully in the future, Catholic social teaching can be a common crossroads, a common place where people of many different backgrounds share reflections on the meaning of globalization and ways to make it more productive and more constructive. Catholic social teaching is based in a theory of natural law, which, although it's complex, does tell us that people of goodwill, whether they agree with one faith perspective or not, can come to agreement. Looking at the same facts, looking at the same analysis, they can work towards a common set of overlapping concerns. So regarding globalization, what are some of these values that Catholic social teaching can work with other voices, whether they're Catholic, Protestant, Buddhist, secular humanist, whatever? What are some of these values? Let me list 4 of these guiding values. First, a genuine human development, an integral human development, grounded on the dignity of each person and grounded on the construct of human rights.